When you hear the word democracy, what's the first country that pops into your mind? For the majority of the world, it's probably the United States. We often think about the White House, the red, white, and blue, and all the great things about it. Now, this is going to come as a surprise to many people, but there's a new study from Denmark and the Alliance of Democracies that reveals China just might be a more democratic nation than even the United States of America. What's unique about this study is that it doesn't rely on the opinion of experts, but rather on local citizens and their perceptions of democracies in their home country. The data inside this study will absolutely shock you, but it's important to better understand the difference between China and America. Surprisingly, the country that views itself as the most democratic society is actually China. In contrast, in my home country of the United States, the majority of Americans are becoming increasingly frustrated with how American democracy is serving its people. Last year, a Swedish think tank added the United States to its list of backsliding democracies. The Global State of Democracy reported, "The United States, the bastion of global democracy, fell victim to authoritarian tendencies itself and was knocked down a significant number of steps on the democratic scale." One of the interesting graphs in this report is the perceived democracy deficit. This is the difference between how important people say democracy is and how democratic they feel their country is. Let's take the United States for example. Less than 50% of Americans feel the United States is democratic, but over 75% of Americans feel that the democracy is important. This is a difference of 27 points. In contrast, China actually ranks number one on this list, with 81% of Chinese citizens feeling China is democratic, and 90% of Chinese citizens feeling that democracy is important in their society. The difference in China is just 9 points, exactly 1/3 of America. This is a fascinating point that's worth mentioning again. Despite China being a one-party state for over 70 years, over 90% of Chinese citizens believe that democracy is important to the future of Chinese society. Now you might be asking yourself, how can Chinese citizens feel democracy is important when they live inside a one-party state? Chinese citizens can't vote for their president, but that's not the most important thing for the average Chinese citizen. The more important question is the government serving the interest of the majority or the minority? Chinese citizens can directly see the tangible results of many decades of poverty alleviation, as China transformed itself from one of the world's poorest countries in the 1970s to now one of the richest. The average Chinese citizen will agree that China's government is serving the majority of its citizens. But what about equality? Does every citizen have the same opportunities and freedoms? The survey indicates that 42% of Americans feel they live in a country that does not have equal rights for their citizens. That score places the United States among the top 5 free democracies in the world, with citizens who are unhappy about equality in their country. In contrast, once again, Vietnam and China are the top 2 countries in the world whose citizens believe they live in an equal society. Now, why does the United States score so poorly in this category? Unfortunately, it's the very nature of American democracy, which prioritizes the needs and wants of corporations as opposed to common citizens. 72% of Americans say that global corporations threaten their democracy. In addition, 63% of Americans feel the United States government is serving the interest of a minority of people. What's remarkable is this is an increase of 11 points from 2 years earlier. This is very dangerous for the United States and shows just how much public sentiment has changed in the past 2 years. 82% of Americans believe holding free and open elections is the most important part of a democracy. Given the controversy of the 2020 presidential election, we can easily understand why Americans prioritize a properly run and safe election. As an American citizen, I know firsthand that voting for our president by far is the most important aspect of our democracy. It is essentially what defines American democracy. But in China, only 54% of people think elections are an important part of the democratic process. China isn't alone in this category. Japan even scores lower, with just 50% of Japanese viewing elections as being important. Now, generally speaking, Asian countries don't view elections as the most important part of democracy for one simple reason. Many Asian countries use a system of meritocracy. To advance up the political ranks, one must prove your worth. You must provide tangible and measurable results, and you will be held accountable for your actions. This is very different than America, where politicians have almost zero accountability and simply say whatever is needed to win votes and remain in power. Incredibly, just 5% of Chinese citizens believe their country does not have free and open elections, which is quite a contrast to the United States, where nearly 1/3 of Americans feel the election process is not free and not fair. What's shocking is even Russia ranks 2 percentage points higher than the United States. Despite the fact the majority of Americans do not see their own country as democratic, but let's get down to the core problem in America, and for that I need to show you what our government looked like 33 years ago. This is Ronald Reagan's farewell address to the nation on January 11th, 1989.
We the people tell the government what to do. It doesn't tell us. We the people are the driver. The government is the car.
Let's be honest with ourselves here. Does anyone believe that this is the current role of the United States government? By far, the best example I can give is the recent gun violence in America. Most Americans are not gun owners. Most Americans, whether they are Republicans or Democrats, are in favor of stricter gun laws. But corrupt government officials who are getting paid millions of dollars from the National Rifle Association refuse to act for the people. Again, this is why 72% of Americans say corporations threaten their democracy, and 63% of Americans feel the United States government is serving the interests of a minority of people. The minority that is being served in America is the politicians themselves and the corporate board members. A 2014 study from Princeton University reveals a shocking revelation. In the United States, our findings indicate the majority does not rule, at least not in the casual sense of actually determining policy outcomes. When a majority of citizens disagree with economic elites or with organized interest, they generally lose. Moreover, because of the strong status quo bias built into the US political system, even when fairly large majorities of Americans favor policy change, they generally do not get it. Now, in conclusion, I hope all of you enjoyed today's discussion about democracy and its perception around the world. Although the majority of the world doesn't understand China, we've learned that the majority of Chinese citizens have a different perception and are happy how the government is serving the interests of the majority of its people. This survey is also very important for Americans. We need to hold our government leaders more accountable and force them to serve the interests of the majority. Let's start with passing more sensible gun laws to start keeping American citizens safer. As you can see, this is a core issue that I feel as an American citizen. Finally, I would like to thank French businessman Arnaud Bertrand for breaking down this report on Twitter for everyone to understand. Everyone, my name is Cyrus Jansen. Thanks for spending time with me today on YouTube, and I look forward to seeing you all in another video soon. Hello， 我中国的朋友们，我找到了一个很好玩的地方，叫做爱发电。在那里，我可以和大家零距离聊天互动，分享我制作的语音和脚本，带大家走进我的个人的生活，还可以1对1视频通话以及定制专属视频。偶然我们相遇摆在哪里？